Hello, and welcome to Overlooked Headlines. We're the podcast designed to share headlines from America and around the world that have been disregarded or overlooked, but are critical to our lives and well-being. It's our mission to inform with the headlines and then inspire through biblical words, which we call His Lines, that once heard and applied will help to strengthen our faith in God as we navigate this journey called life. Now, here's the host of Overlooked Headlines, Jeff Bass.
Thanks for joining us today and welcome to another episode of Overlooked Headlines. I'm Jeff Bass. Here's our headline breakdown. Bill Gates and the UN are pushing for bug-based diets for humans to monopolize the protein industry. Mercedes-Benz deploys humanoid robots to help build cars and replace low-skilled workers. In case you missed it headline, Eerie mind-controlling tech can manipulate emotions and even appetite without invasive surgery. And our top headline, French supermarket introduces vein palm reading payment system. And we close with his lines. Here's our first headline. Bill Gates and the UN are pushing for bug-based diets for humans to monopolize the protein industry. The European Union, the United Kingdom, Australia, and other countries have also approved certain insects for human consumption, with clear labeling requirements for food products containing insects. Gaps in U.S. regulations have enabled alternative protein startups to enter the insect food market with the backing of figures such as Bill Gates and government agencies, including the United Nations, DARPA, and the National Science Foundation. The trend towards insect-based foods is linked to the UN's Agenda 2030 SDGs, promoting sustainability and forced behavioral modifications. The World Economic Forum, known as the WEF, perhaps the largest driving force behind so-called alternative proteins, frequently touts compliance with Agenda 2030. So the decision to prioritize insect-based foods isn't surprising. Proponents of insects as food for humans, including the UN Food and Agricultural Organization, claim that they are more sustainable and have a lower carbon footprint compared to traditional livestock. However, animal-based foods like beef, pork, and poultry are more efficient and healthy sources of protein. The truth is that beef, pork, poultry, and other animal-based foods are the most efficient and healthy sources of protein. Many are saying these climate fanatics pushing insect-based foods are scaring people into adopting less healthy diets. While advocates see insects as a viable protein source for the future, there are concerns about safety and health risks, such as parasites and allergies. And it raises questions about the motives behind promoting insect-based foods. The justification for insects is to produce protein using fewer inputs to save the planet by reducing climate change, methane from cows, and less pollution, said Dr. Meryl Nass, the founder of Door to Freedom. She went on to say, just because it is protein, that doesn't mean it's good for us. Nass cited parasites that could be spread by insects, difficulties in digesting insects, and common allergies to chitin, which is commonly found on the exoskeleton of insects. Also, she suggested that one reason behind the shift to insects as food is to cause emotional harm, to degrade, debase, downgrade human beings, and that beef is being demonized, potentially to weaken the species. In addition to debasing people and so gaining psychological power over them, there is enormous financial gain to be had for those driving the insect-based diet's agenda. Bill Gates claims his investments in alternative proteins are to save the planet. However, what he does not talk about is the strategy to monopolize the protein industry for profit as he lobbies to ban animal-based competition. Our next headline, Mercedes-Benz deploys humanoid robots to help build cars and replace low-skilled workers. This article is courtesy of PC Magazine. Mercedes-Benz is adding Apptronik's Apollo humanoid robots to its factories to complete physically intensive and low-skilled tasks, the car manufacturer and robotics firm recently announced. Mercedes plans to use robotics and Apollo for automating some low-skill, physically challenging manual labor. Apollo is 5 feet 8 inches in height, weighs 160 pounds, can lift up to 55 pounds, and can currently run for 4 hours on a single battery pack, according to the company's website. The general-purpose robot has arms and legs, as well as eyes, with LED lights and a screen on its chest that can display different types of information. Instead of a moving mouth, Apollo's mouth is another screen of sorts that can display a slight smile, a wrench icon, or its battery charge status. Apollo doesn't have a plug-in option like an electric vehicle to charge. Instead, the humanoid robot has battery packs that must be removed and swapped when it runs out of juice. The robot also doesn't have to use its legs if its tasks are stationary, as its torso can be mounted to a metal post if desired. When a moving object or person is detected within the impact zone close to a walking Apollo, the robot will stop moving for safety reasons. Apollo also comes with software that can remotely control its operations, and the company's website shows that it can even be controlled from a game controller-like device. The announcement suggests Mercedes may use Apollo to inspect vehicle parts, bring parts to the assembly line for human workers to assemble, and deliver parts, just to name a few potential use cases. Mercedes-Benz Group management says, to build the most desirable cars, we continually evolve the future of automotive production. Advancements in robotics and AI open up new opportunities also for us. They also went on to say, we are exploring new possibilities with the use of robotics to support our skilled workforce in manufacturing. This is a new frontier, and we want to understand the potential both for robotics and automotive manufacturing to fill labor gaps in areas such as low skill, repetitive, and physically demanding work, and to free up our highly skilled team members on the line to build the world's most desirable cars. As humanity gets seemingly closer to a science fiction future, Apptronik isn't the only company developing new robots. Laptop maker Lenovo recently won a design award for its six-legged Daystar GS robot, which is supposedly designed for comprehensive data collection. Stay where you are. I've got more overlooked headlines.
Still to come, our top headline. And don't miss his lines right here on Overlooked Headlines.
In case you missed it, Eerie mind-controlling tech can manipulate emotions and even appetite without invasive surgery. Scientists have discovered they can use nanoparticles to control the minds of mice in a groundbreaking new study. Beyond any nefarious sci-fi inspired plans for the technology, which is still in its very early stages of development, scientists believe it can be used to treat neurological disorders like depression. With an external magnetic field, scientists at the Institute for Basic Science, which is known as IBS, in South Korea, found they could manipulate nanoparticle activated switches inside the brains of mice. The technology, dubbed nanomind, allowed researchers to control the emotions and the appetites of mice from afar. The human brain contains a complex network of over 100 billion neurons, which, if controlled, is crucial for understanding cognition, emotion, and social behavior. Scientists manipulated these neurons by magnetically twisting a tiny actuator to pull or push nanoparticles implanted in the mice's brains. There have been numerous mind control experiments on animals over the years, but this is the first that hasn't involved invasive surgery and bulky external systems, which has instead allowed mice the freedom of movement. This is the world's first technology to freely control specific brain regions using magnetic fields. Jin-Woo Shan, director of the IBS Center for Nanomedicine, said in a statement. Xian, a senior author of the study that was recently published in the journal Nature Nanotechnology, added, quote, "We expect it to be widely used in research to understand brain functions, sophisticated artificial neural networks, two-way brain-computer interface technologies, and new treatments for neurological disorders." In several rounds of experiments, researchers activated inhibitory neurons within the brain to increase appetite and feeding behaviors by 100%. In turn, the team could then dampen their appetite. Scientists also used the nanomind system to activate the brain receptors responsible for maternal behaviors in female mice that hadn't yet reproduced. These female mice then showed significantly increased nurturing behaviors, such as bringing pups to their nest, similar to maternal mice, according to a press release. In a third experiment, researchers activated the neurons responsible for friendly behaviors to encourage mice to socialize with other mice they hadn't met before in a small chamber. Very interesting. Let us know how you feel about mind control.
Hey, if you're enjoying this episode, then we'll think you'll love connecting with us on our social media platforms as well, because we post frequent news bites, tips, and alerts to keep you informed and inspired. Now, let's get back to more overlooked headlines with Jeff Bass.
Now, here's our top headline. French supermarket introduces vein, that's like in your veins, vein palm reading payment system. French supermarket Carrefour has introduced a new biometric payment system that analyzes the unique vein patterns in customers' hands to make a secure transaction, reportedly the first of its kind in Europe. French paper The Connexion reported that Carrefour Market in Paris has partnered with fintech company Ingenico to introduce this new type of payment terminal. Trials will begin starting in a few weeks, a date that was chosen because of the Paris Olympics being held. Before use, customers register their vein pattern on a dedicated terminal and link it to their bank card. The customer then can make a purchase by simply holding the palm of their registered hand over a dedicated payment terminal. This system ensures a high level of security for personal and banking data, said Carrefour. It will make the checkout experience smoother and improve the customer experience. Ingenico debuted this palm reading terminal at the start of 2023. The company goes on to claim that a common challenge persists in payments, such as verifying that the person using the payment method is the person authorized to use the payment method. The company explained in a press release that this method of payment, however, is most secure and customers' interactions are then tokenized. Merchants never quite know if the person dipping the payment card in the card reader is the account holder or if the person using the account at a kiosk is the person whose account is covering the transaction. Palm vein identification, for example, is one of the most accurate forms of biometric identification, they say. A payment system leveraging this form of authentication encrypts and tokenizes images of consumers' palm vein patterns and their account information. The company went on to say it's a less intrusive method than their other options like facial or iris scans, and it's easier to implement and operate. Ingenico additionally argues that consumers don't have to fumble for a payment card. They don't have to remember a PIN or unlock a smartphone and open a mobile wallet. They also say to don't discount the cool factors, very cool, which can entice consumers to try and adopt this payment method. Early adopters in particular will benefit from the novelty of this emerging technology. Don't move. His lines are coming up. Jeff Bass here, and I want to take this opportunity to thank you all so much for your support of our new podcast, Overlooked Headlines with Jeff Bass. It's our pleasure to do what we do just for you. If you desire more headlines, then please visit our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, to get overlooked news bites, tips, alerts, and much, much more. By the way, don't forget to download a new episode of Overlooked Headlines every Tuesday. Overlooked Headlines with Jeff Bass, where we're committed to keeping you informed and inspired. It's time for His Lines, where we take a closer look at these headlines from a biblical perspective taken from the Bible, which is God's Word. Sometimes it seems like we are fighting a losing battle against the forces of evil. In other words, with all the systems of this world in place to control us, deceive us, manipulate us, and much, much more, we can easily get discouraged and wonder, how can we deal with this mounting pressure? Well, the Word of God comforts us and reassures us that we are not alone in these battles. As a matter of fact, God is with us and He will fight for us. Therefore, let me give you 4 scriptures to remember and meditate on this week. As whatever battle you may go through, think on these. Exodus 14:14, the Lord will fight for you and you have only to be silent. Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 22, you shall not fear them, for it is the Lord your God who fights for you. Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse 4. For the Lord your God is He who goes with you to fight for you against our enemies, to give you the victory. And the 4th one, Psalm 34:17. When the righteous cry for help, the Lord hears and delivers them out of all their troubles. Meditate on those scriptures this week. That's His Lines. This has been Overlooked Headlines. I'm Jeff Bass, keeping you informed and inspired. Stay blessed.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you've been informed and inspired. Like us, tell a friend, and connect with us via Facebook, YouTube, or email us at neveroverlooked@gmail.com. That's neveroverlooked@gmail.com. Check us out next time on Overlooked Headlines with Jeff Bass.